Hey everybody, Isle here with another hydrogen not included gameplay base overview to update everyone on where things have progressed to. So a lot's happened since my last video. First thing I'll get into is about that polluted water vent. So we did break on in here and isolated it and started bringing it out. So it's doing two things. One, into a reserve system, but then it's augmenting to feed into the trees, which are the arbor trees. So that's good. So along with their wastewater, and that is keeping these 100% full. So they're always growing, which is quite necessary since I'm trying to move to 12 pips. Then we run it up, and I've just started this. So this is basically a chlorine purification system, because this water is very germy. As you can see, that's how it works. So it has to be disinfected before I can fully use it for things. And not that food poisoning is a big deal if it gets in the air. It's just messy. I don't like the way it looks. So I always clean it and make sure it doesn't, my base doesn't get contaminated too much. So the way I set this system up, this is a pretty standard stuff. There's lots of guides out on it, but a lot of people still struggle with this. If you're going to use a polluted water vent to clean the massive amount of germs that are in here, there's like 5 million per tile, you need to have a chlorinated room with 4 reservoirs. 4 reservoirs is the trick that will work. To set it up, you first make this a vacuum. Then you fill it with chlorine. It doesn't even matter how much chlorine, as long as every tile has chlorine. I just pump it full. You can see I've got a fair amount in. I just pump it full so I can visually see that it's good. Make sure that there's no other packets of anything in there. And then what you do is you fill it up. So you set up a system like this where you see how it feeds back on itself. So initially you cut off this one, so it's not hooked up, and this one is hooked up, and you fill all 4 of them completely full to the point that it's up to here, and then you merely just wrap this one onto there. First you sever this off and you connect this, and what happens is it'll just keep flowing around and around and around in a circle. So you can see it's self-contained. It just keeps doing this. What's that is going to do is actually filter out all the germs from the initial load. And there's a reason that we do this. So you can see if I go and check these, right? That's not it. They're all clean. There is no germs in it whatsoever. So now the system's ready to start. So what I would do now is simply unhook this and hook up this, and then take the water, and it'll be going into this room where I will use whatever the water sieve. So this is going to be built here, and then I'm going to go in here to clean it, and then out into whatever use I have. You should note that this water is 30 degrees. It comes out of these things at 29. It's 30 degrees, but it's 29 because there was some coldness in here. So just count on it being just a 30 degree temperature. So useful for sure. 30 degrees is not out of a whack, but again, this water will likely end up being used for the sleet wheat farm, which I'll put here. And so therefore I'm going to have to cool it down with an aqua tuner. So later I'm going to wire that in. I'm not ready to go to sleet wheat yet, because I'm still not going and getting natural gas. And until I have a kind of a system worked out to go off to the other planet, grab natural gas whenever I want in this. And I'm getting ready to go and get a load. But once I can, until I have that set up where I know I can reliably go pick up, these things hold a lot, right? It has oxygen now because I've been putting some oxygen in to test it, but you can see it's just one. Anyways, once these things, I think it's 11. Yeah, it's 11 tons of gas they can bring back. Well, that's a lot. Like that'll really be enough to cook off of for a while, and I'll just go get more when I need it. So, yeah, but until I have that all set up where it's convenient just to fly off, come back, I'm not really going to get the sleet wheat farms going. I want to know that I can make frost burgers before I get those farms really started. But it's very soon, and I'm going to start those very soon. Next is about the PIP farms. So I have gone and put in the Critter Condos. I checked it all out. Yes, you can have 12 pips in a farm now if you have this, and they'll all be cool and happy, and one arbor tree can feed them all. So every ranch can have 12, which means that my dirt production is actually, I'm actually increasing the amount of dirt now with the amount of pips I have. They're not all full yet, and the reason why, like, it's still more than I had before, but they're just not all full. And the reason why is because at the rate that so a pip lives 100 cycles, and 7 times 12 is like 84. At the rate that they die, and the ratio to the amount I have, I basically need to replace in a farm. The system needs 1 pip per day, which would just more or less be 4 incubators going. Will always suffice to make sure that once it's full, that it remains more or less full. So now I'm running 5 of them simply because I'm trying to catch up. Before I was running 3 up until about 10 cycles ago. I just had 3 going, and I was doing this for cuddle pips. And then I realized, like, they're never going to fill up. Like, I'm not making them fast enough in order to fill these. So I've added 2 more, 5 of them. It'll catch up, and then I will eliminate 1. Or not eliminate 1, but turn 1 back to be cuddle pips, and then 4 will have to go nonstop in order to keep the egg count up. So, anyways, that's works good. Did a couple of background design work as well in the for the farms. Been playing with the tiles and the various blueprints that you get to unlock. Yeah, it's right here. I know new blueprints. I don't know when I'm going to get any more. So nothing much has changed for the rooms. It's all pretty much the same. Now, let's go talk about my favorite thing ever that I've just discovered. I never knew about this. And you want to talk about power capability of this asteroid. Number one is we're doing the hydrogen trick, which works great, as we've seen. It's water-based, right? And with like 3 water sources, I could live off this for a long time and not tax the water. Number 2 is we've got a very wonderful volcano here, which could be surrounded by massive heat. Like, the amount of heat energy that I could be utilizing if I wanted to. And I don't like using heat energy. It's a little messy, and the systems are often quite large in size and so on. And when things go wrong, they go wrong very badly. But the point is that there's unlimited heat energy if that was what I chose to go with. I don't know what I'm going to do. I want this room, so eventually I'm going to figure out a way to get rid of all this heat, probably into space somehow, so that I just have the room to build in. So we've got a heat systems, we've got the hydrogen check. The other one, though, is that I've discovered. I never knew anything about these. I talked in the last video about these Saturn Critter Traps and betas. I kind of knew about betas. I understood from watching videos that, betas are the most efficient way to get enriched uranium, because they will go and mine these naturally. They'll mine the chewed up ones, but you don't want to do that because you'd lose half of the volume. But they'll mine these things naturally, flying around, bring them to their beta hives, and these will make enriched uranium. In fact, I've already made a substantial amount. It's just laying all over the place of enriched uranium from the ones that were just running all by themselves with me not even interfering with them. So with this all being in here, beta system more or less already set up, and the ability, of course, to be able to make more and more of them if you want, I could just have as much enriched uranium as I want. And nuclear, like a double bore nuclear generator like that says of 2 nuclear reactors, and it powers like 20 steam turbines, etc., produces an immense amount of power. It just takes a lot of space, and it's not problematic once it's up and running. It's tricky to get up and set up and running. It just takes a lot of space, and it's not space I want to sacrifice. I don't know where I'd want to put it up in space somehow, because I would use the radiation to fuel Radbold engines. But every time I think about I should do it, I'm talking about heat energy, and there's all this down here. Like I could live off heat energy for probably 10,000 cycles the way this is set up, but it's not what I'm doing. But the thing is that I really don't want to do the nuclear reactor. I don't know what other uses enriched uranium has. Other than powering a nuclear reactor. I guess I'll look into it, but I don't even care about that. I've discovered something else about this whole little symbiotic relationship. And it honestly doesn't need the beta hives to do this. But since you're going to be dealing with these Saturn Critter Traps, and they require freezing temperatures, and so do the beta hives. In other words, if you're going to be doing these, you're going to be freezing something. So you might as well be freezing the entire thing. And it also, these things will supply them with a basically automatic food delivery system. But what happens is they eat these things when they crawl on the ground. So they'll go in when one's ready, and it takes like 100 cycles or so before they will eat a new one. And during that time, when they're closed up and they've eaten something, they start producing hydrogen. Okay. I discovered that just offhand because I noticed how much hydrogen had pooled up. In the last video, I talked about that. Now I've read it all over and I know all the mechanics. The other night I got real obsessed with playing it, where I was using pips, bringing pips down to plant these, so they're all wild. They don't have to be fed any polluted oxygen or polluted water, because feeding them doesn't make them make more hydrogen. So there's no point in feeding them. So I got all this set up, and I basically learned how to build these things, which is you basically just have to isolate one of these betinis, and they'll eventually, after age 2, they'll go and they'll just become one. And so I was able to get them where I want them, get all these plants set up. Everything had been isolated, so it was easier to move a pip in, get all the planting done, move the betony in, get that done. I've halfway through, I discovered that if you build this first and then you start doing your planting and you make sure you got these guys out or you wrangle them from the other ones, that it tends to be them that get eaten by the plants, not the pips. So many pips perish to this setup, and especially since I was fooling around with it over here with the natural ones for a while as well. So I probably sacrificed about 10 or 15 pips to this experiment. Well worth it. And that's another reason why my farms aren't full yet, because I was giving up so many of them to them. But well worth it, because what I've discovered is very powerful, and it's probably one of the more powerful power systems, power providers that I've ever seen. One of these guys will produce 25 kilograms per cycle. That's 25 kilograms of hydrogen released in the air per cycle. Now, you look anywhere, you can see. I've only gone maybe 20 cycles since then. There is so much hydrogen, right? So I have 6, 12, I have 24 of them. Now, that's 600 kilograms per cycle of hydrogen, which is like 1,000 grams per second or something like that. Well, a hydrogen generator uses 100 grams per second to produce 800 watts, or 1,200 if you tinker them. But when you're dealing with these numbers, there's no point in tinkering NG's tune up them anymore. As you can see, I've deactivated them because I don't need to tune them up anymore. All right. If I want more power, I'll just build more generators. So if they're using 100 grams a second and I am off this, I'm producing 1,000 grams a second, theoretically I could power 10 hydrogen generators, which would be 8,000 kilowatts of power, and that's a lot. Like that's a lot. I've seen other power systems like the nuclear reactor, right? I believe that at max these things can produce like 850, right? And the double reactor system has 20, so I mean it's getting the 16K watts area, but still, what if I want to produce more power? Oh, okay, I'll make more plants, right? And I don't have to feed them betinis. I can feed them any creature I want, and I only have to feed them creatures like when they open up, and it's like every 100 or 120 cycles that they need one single creature to then produce that much hydrogen. So if I had to, I could be feeding them pips. I could be farming any creature I want and feeding them to these systems. So it's, in my opinion, it's overpowered. But so are many things in this game, like once you get them set up fully. And it does take quite a bit of work, and you do need Atmos suits to get in here and do this, because the bees will sting your dupes if you don't have Atmos suits. And it's obviously a hydrogen, or it's just a hellhole that's freezing. So you just can't just start really early in the game and get this going on. But certainly at this point, this has become like almost an unlimited power system, to the point where if I need more power, I will just build more of these and more generators, and I can just stack it and stack it and stack it. So I'm going to go with letting the BTinies feed, because my understanding is the rate that these things harvest this and put it into these homes to keep these, because you got to keep these cold and you got to keep them fed or they will die. If they die, it doesn't matter. You just remove it, plant another one. But if they're dying, it means that you're out of uranium. So I've hollowed out pretty much the entire bottom section of all the other stuff, and I've only left the natural uranium everywhere except where I had to dig it out to build this. So I've left it. So this is still a great deal of uranium, and I believe it will last a long time. I haven't checked all the numbers as far as how much these guys do per day and so on, but I've been watching it. They're very slow to eat away at it. This is going to last a long time. They're going to produce the BTinies and feed these things naturally. So this becomes a no-touch system, and it will produce, like I say, enough to, at this point, fuel it. And also, if I did run out of this uranium, as long as I can get uranium, I can just feed it in here and drop it, and they'll do the same thing. And again, it's just all based on just an automated system. Any creatures will work. Any critters you can feed to them, it's going to work. So you could set up other systems in order to feed them. Even if it was an egg dropping system where you just parceled it out, so you knew that there would always be 6 critters available at any given time, so that when they open up, they get to eat, right? Hatches would work, etc. So there's unlimited ways to feed these things, and they produce hydrogen at that rate. And like I say, 24 of these is going to be able to feed 10 generators if I wanted to, for 8,000 watts. Then I thought last night when I finally got this all set up, and I just couldn't believe when I did the math how good it's going to be. And I thought, well, at least the limiting factor is that you can only use the Saturn trap. You can only use the Saturn Critter Traps for the seeds that were on the map, or the ones that were already on the map, right? That's what I thought. Today, though, I found out that no, they have a percentage chance to drop a seed when they're harvested. And so already this one has produced a seed. These were from leftovers, but when I finished last night, I had used all my seeds. So now I've acquired 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So more seeds. I think I found seeds when I was digging in the ground, though. But yeah, they can produce seeds. So at least I think so. I'm hoping that I didn't dig this up out of a tile. I don't remember there being any tiles up here. Like, I'm hoping I didn't dig that up. And I could be wrong on that. I will in another video probably discuss it. But there are other planets which will have these types of zones, and I could get more seeds. And honestly, I don't need it. This is way more power than I currently require. Most bases can't, unless you want to run like arcade video games for every single dupe that go off all at the same time and things like that. Most bases don't need this much power. And I could also, if I really had to, and I was, I could had 10 of them going, and that was my limit, I could just start power housing them, power control stations, and doing tune-ups and stuff, augmented that way. And then, even if that's not enough power, I still have all the geo power if I want to get into that, and I also have all the enriched uranium. I can set up a mini small reactor system that can produce more. So I certainly have no power problems, but I'm just fascinated with these Saturn Critter Traps. Like, I know the betas have a relationship to all this, and the reason why it works well, because it means you don't have to really think much about it and check, do they still have uranium? But the fact that these can just be kept in a cold place and run off of anything, and they'll produce hydrogen, has so many options, so much potential. What you don't want to do is have to feed them polluted water, because they drink like what is it? They'll drink 10 kilograms a cycle. That's not bad, but again, that would be 240 kilograms a cycle. It's not something I necessarily want to waste on, but it's not bad. You could set up systems where place these wherever you want, control the especially if you had a polluted like a polluted slush vent, because it comes out at -10, right? And so you'd have the cooling built right into your water source if you had one of those. So there's really a lot of potential with this whole system. So that's probably the biggest thing that I worked on since the last video. Was I installed this system. I found out all about how these things work. I completely hollowed this out, set up all these hives. I got the pip farms more or less up and running, and now they're populating. So soon, all this plus the Dreco meat is cycled to the point where I'm getting meat off of them starting to die and so on. So once all that cycles, I'm not quite on barbecue yet, 100%, but I'm very, very close. I've been slowly eliminating plants off the system. Just, I'll take off one off each end, see how it goes. If I don't notice that we're getting low at all, then I maybe consider taking another one off. But as the barbecue system, grows up, soon I actually believe that with this many pip farms at 12 per, plus the Drecos, that for 16 dupes, I'll be making enough barbecue where I'll probably have excess. So that's good. It'll be great to be done with the mealwood, even though now I'm dirt positive. Because of the amount of pips I have. So that's pretty much everything I've added in. I'm about to go to the other planet. One of my biggest problems is that I'm always running a massive deficit of ore and finished ores and stuff. So I need to go to the other planet and get more iron ore to bring back, and certainly so I can make more steel. I have 7 tons of steel, but I certainly would like more. So that's probably what I'm going to be working on next, as well as perhaps trying to begin to set up some kind of system over there, not to live, but just to start to get that natural gas, so that I can actually consider to be doing frost burgers, having the gas to power the grill. Last thing. So this is a cooling system. This is the design that I use. It is based on designs that you've all seen all over. I've slightly modified it, and I figured I'd talk about it. So it's just a standard system where we're cooling water. And the reason, what I set this one up to do, quite simple. I'm just taking this really hot salt water. Now this salt water, this whole tank was 85, and it was around 78 to 85, somewhere around there across the board. Okay, so it was quite hot. So basically, I'm just taking it out of here. I'm using it to help balance this load, but I'm taking it out if the temperature is above a certain amount, which of course it is, and bringing it up into this cooling system. So it comes up. This is a decision maker about if my generator needs to be cooled, because to run it optimally, you need to keep it under 100, right? So target should be under like 98, 99. Under 100 is great. As you can see right now, it's 83.3, right? I have no problem keeping it cool. So basically, this is a decision maker based off the temperature. And if it needs cooling for any reason, then it will actually send it this way rather than straight into the system. So it will send it in here. And this is something I don't see enough guys talking about in videos or using. Conduction panels are so overpowered, and they change how we do cooling for cooling buildings. They really, really change things. So this thing is basically you just put it into your system, overlapping onto the building you want to cool, and it will just take heat off that building like mad and transfer it into whatever is being passed through. So if this thing does start to get, and I have it set to not activate unless it gets to 97. In other words, it's a fail safe, right? I don't want to heat up that water because then I have to cool that water. So it's not like I'm going to use that as the primary cooling system. It's the fail-safe backup to make sure this never goes overheats. So it will inject in there, and just 1 or 2 blips, and boom, it'll shut off. It'll cool it that fast, and then that feeds back in to be cooled. So other than that, it's a standard system where the water's going in. It's checking for the target temperature. If it's too hot, which it always is right now, it cools it and spits it back out, and we just run it straight back and drop it in the top, right? So we're bringing this, it starts being cooler and cooler. This is the hotter zone, and it's just transferring through. And I'm just cooling the entire tank of it. It's too hot. It doesn't inject fast enough. The cooler this gets, then the less that the other one that I will need to use this. So if this is brought down 10 degrees, then this uses a certain percentage less because it is easier to get it to the temperature I want, to 20 degrees. So eventually this will cool down. I have it set right now, try and get it down to 40. Again, I was at almost 85 across the entire tank. And now in maybe, it's been maybe 100 cycles. It's dropped down to 64. Yes, I could just cool the water to the temperature I want and shove it over here. I'd prefer just to cool the entire thing slowly. I'm not that concerned about it. It will slowly get regulated, and when it's regulated, I can get it to whatever consistent temperature I want, because I want to basically balance this with this so that they're both always full, even when they go dormant. So that this one's very full because we use so little of it, and this one is never full because we use so much of it. As I bring this temperature down, it will start to cross balance, and eventually this will just become perfectly in tune. I'll figure out what the temperature is that both of them stay quite full all the time, and just keep running this system the way I have been. If I need water for other things, I'll use it. I'll probably start to substitute this water into the bathroom system, so I use overall less of this. But the idea is not to conserve water. The idea is that I have actually more than enough water between these two systems. I just don't have a balance achieved for the temperature. So this is just cooling them very slowly. Now, when I run these things, and I'm not sure if it'll kick, I'll try. So I run them like this. This is at max efficiency at 200 degrees. So until this is heated to 200 degrees, I don't let it go. I'm gonna pause that. So you can see here, I've got about 100 kilograms of steam pressure, which is, I think, the efficient zone you need to be in. And then when it's 200 degrees, when this thing fires up, it will max out. And so it helps augment, it helps save some power by having this, as well as it's deleting the heat. Like, you're getting up to a certain amount, and then it runs through the system. It spits it out here at, I think, 95 degrees, runs along here, helps cool it a little bit, and then spits it back down. The main way that I'm cooling it, though, is I'm running the hydrogen that I'm taking from here, which is at a negative value, and bringing it up. Some of it goes directly into here, but the excess comes up and goes, actually pulling some. When I was fooling around last night, I let a lot of hydrogen go, so it's all pooled up here. So I'm just slowly pulling it out to clean everything up. But yeah, so the main thing, though, is it comes in here, and by the time it gets here, it's actually, because at this point, I run it through a normal pipe just to help keep some cooling in here. So it ends up coming here at about 23. That's more than sufficient through radiant pipes. And just look at the difference. It goes from 30 into the very first one, 61.8, 82, right? And then out it goes. And that then goes into the generator systems. And I'll toy with it if I need to. I don't really need to be doing this. If I did it without this, then what would happen is this conduction panel would activate far more often, and all it would mean is that it would be slower, the cooling ratio that I would get on this. But I might as well take advantage of a lot of this cold hydrogen. The last thing is that I can see that the temperature in here is slowly raising. I used to be at a static minus 11 across the base. Now I'm maybe 30 cycles, 40 cycles later. So I do know that I'm going to have to start to cool the air in here, because the hydrogen is basically, as I'm generating it, it's sucking the cold into it, and then I'm pumping the cold out. So I'm not sure how I could, dump the cold back into the system as I take the hydrogen out, just because of the way the mixtures would work. And I have to think about that a bit. Regardless, though, it doesn't matter. It goes off. It creates power, and power is used to make things cold. So I will very likely just add a cooling system somewhere into this with an aqua tuner, and just make this place to the temperature I want, which, as long as it stays below zero, we're all good. So by the time it gets anywhere even close to that, I'll have something in place that will hold it to like a -5 or something like that, and keep it cool. So I can't really tighten it up until they finish chewing up all the natural uranium, but they will. It will eventually get all eaten up, and then that'll be the point where I would close off this system and start delivering uranium into them, or even thinking about a different system that doesn't involve the beta hives, and instead I feed them a different creature. They can't eat pacus, and they can't eat airborne creatures, but there's lots of other creatures that are easy to produce and could be fed to them. So I'll think about that. But for now, this is going to, I've got many, many hundreds of cycles where all this stuff is going to continue to work. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.